average days on market, I feel like they're shifting a little bit. It's taking a little bit longer for things to sell.
Hey everybody, starting off a little bit differently this week. This is part 2 of our conversation that Chris and I had with Kerry MacDougall, sales director up in North Conway. We had an awesome conversation and we didn't want to have to cut any of it out. So enjoy the second part of it. And as always, welcome to Change in the Market. Moving forward, I feel like a lot of my generation and everyone, around me, that's going to be their first impression of the housing market was this, and they never had to deal with that. So it's always going to be a negative, not always, but I wonder how much negativity will always be kind of in the mindset of my people, my generation, as we kind of sit in that standard 5%. And heaven forbid we ever go above a 7 again.
Yeah, well, we went through this kind of extraordinary period going all the way back to the 08, mortgage meltdown, right? Where we had 0% interest rates at a Fed level, right? Which then generated 3 or 4% interest rates at a retail level. Well, we're probably never going to have that again, or certainly not, in our lifetimes, even yours, Peyton. And let's hope not, right? Because it was not for the right reasons. Yeah. So we went through a period of time with pretty lenient monetary policies, and I have my own opinion about how the Fed reacted to inflation. I mean, considering they had a pandemic and then a ground war in Europe. Those aren't everyday events. So to me, I felt like they overreacted a little bit, but that's their prerogative. But now interest rates are under, inflation's under control. So that means interest rates, should start to come down. So Kerry, what's the seller sentiment? Do they feel like it's still so strongly a buyer's market that their house is going to be on the market a couple of days and they're going to get multiple offers significantly over the asking price? Is that kind of a thing, or are they kind of in tune that things have moderated just slightly?
I think there's definitely some of that lingering. And it can be hard when you go out on a listing appointment because, with some properties, we still have that happening here in our community. Mm-hmm. I live in a ski town. It's a second home market. If a darling ski chalet comes on with the right vibe, then there'll be plenty of people making offers. I do think, though, that we're seeing that less and less. Our average days on market, I feel like, are shifting a little bit. It's taking a little bit longer for things to sell. And it can be tough when you're pricing because, a year ago, our prices were outpacing our comparables. So when you were doing a price opinion for someone, by the time we got it out on the market was already ahead of the number. So you would price trying to put that into play and taking that trend into consideration. I think there are still sellers that are thinking they can go out high, and because buyers have been so trained by this market from the last few years, that it's going to be multiple offers. It might go over asking. I'm finding buyers aren't bidding as low or bidding underpriced. So then if you have a seller who's thinking, well, let's go high. The market's been great. Let's go high. The market's been going up at this rate, and they want to price it high because God forbid they leave money on the table. And then you have buyers who aren't accustomed to working in a market where you no longer sort of go under price. It can create kind of an interesting situation.
Yeah, you're kind of a little bit in this, it's a really kind of an in-between period.
It is.
And you're right, it is so property specific. It really,
totally.
It gets down to fit and finish, location, fit and finish, right?
No, it's so true. We have a local ski resort and a property came on there. It was in the 800s, which is above, our average sales price here. But this was a beautiful condominium, trailside, furnished, gorgeous inside. And there was they ended up with multiple offers on it, but then there's another property that is trailside locally that, it's just not moving, but it's not as big. It's a different mountain. And so you just don't know. Pardon me, it really depends on the property.
What kind of conversations are you having with sellers right now, to prep them for that? Because I think a lot of the expectation there comes from you or the agent in that instance, as to, all right, calm down, this is what's going. Do you struggle with that, or not? Maybe you particularly, but the sellers, your clients, do they struggle with that, having that conversation?
I think some people do struggle with it. there are these two mindsets that you tend to find with sellers. There are the folks that they just want to price it high because they have to leave this transaction feeling like they gave it their best shot. And if we start at a more certain price, then they don't like that, because they might always wonder, could I receive more money for my property? Then there are the others that say, no, I want to go out at a solid fair market value. And I'd love to get as many people through, because then we're more likely to get multiple offers, which can then naturally, I believe in this market, and this is what I say to my sellers, the market right now will correct your price. If you go out too low, if we're doing everything we should be doing to promote your property to the correct audiences, and we're getting the showings and we're getting the activity, the market will bid it up. There'll be a bidding war, multiple people, it'll get where it really needs to be. So that is one conversation I have. What we end up doing kind of depends on the specific seller. But the other conversation I'm having with them, because it's an interesting market to price in, for sure. You don't know. We get this data after the fact that, in the first 6 months of the year, the market increased by X%, but we don't know that yet. And so you're going in and you're trying to price when we've been, the last few years in a market where we're outpacing our comps. And, you have to make that adjustment. And so what I say to my sellers is, look, we're going to go out at this price. I'm going to watch for two things. So, I have a sense of what the average days on market are in my area, and I know, if it's priced at this, it's going to sit for this long. If it's priced at this, it's going to sit for that long. When I make a listing live, I say to them, okay, so we're going to watch for the first 10 to 14 days here. And what I'm watching for is two things. I'm watching for showings. We're not getting enough showings, and I have given this a thorough marketing push, which I do, then the market's speaking to me. And we need to figure out, what is it saying? Is it something about the house that could be fixed, or is it the price? And half the time, if it's something that needs to be fixed in the house, it still leads to the price. If we get tons of showings, but we don't get any offers, again, the market is speaking to us. So is it something we can fix, or does it just have to be the price? And honestly, I prepare them. That's the conversation we have. We are going to sit at this price for this many days, but if we're not under contract, then we need to look at the price, because you don't want something sitting too long and then the perception in the market becomes, there's either something wrong with it, or there's something wrong with the seller's attitude about it.
Yeah.
And they're being unrealistic. So,
that definitely speaks to the use of an agent in that whole process, being able to stand back and really have that strategy behind it. We've talked very recently about smart pricing, and also just like being objective about the selling process. I think that was one of our top mistakes we find that people do make. They just get too emotional about it. They don't they're not thinking straight, if you will, just because they have history. It is emotional.
Yeah, people love their homes. They're attached to them. For some people, it's business, but for others, I have one house that I sold years ago. And when I sold it, I was going into a home I absolutely adored. I can't drive by that old house.
Oh.
Because it's just, my kids grew up there. They were small, and I loved that home. And so, having that sentiment myself, I can understand where people are coming from on that. It's more than business.
Well, that's going to do it for us today on this episode of Change and the Market. As always, if you like this video, feel free to comment or share it with your friends. Kerry, thank you so much for joining us. Chris, you as well. And as always, we'll catch you guys next week on Change in the Market.
Well, thank you, Peyton. Thank you, Kerry.
Yeah, thanks. This was fun.